Yo, hey, this shit easy, nigga. Hey, all I'm talking about, nigga, I'm still out here trying to get it.
Contender Regime Boxing checking back in with y'all, man. What's happening? Errol the True Spence Jr. versus Danny Swift Garcia is official. It's scheduled to be happening this fall 2020. If I had to put money on it, I would be betting around September, October. I'm thinking either that last week of September or like the first couple of weeks of October. Which is great. I think this is great for both guys. Everybody's getting a whole lot of time to rest with the pandemic. Of course, with Errol Spence going through what he went through, he definitely needed that extra time off. It could be positives and negatives with having so much time out of the ring. You think about ring rust and, little things like that, especially for a guy like Errol Spence, who's always been very active, always fighting, always in the gym training. Danny Garcia, his last fight was January against Ivan Redcash. And then Errol Spence, of course, his last fight was versus Sean Porter, September of 2019. So it'll be a full year since Errol Spence Jr. has been back in the ring. So I think there could be some positives and some negatives, but more positives than negatives in my opinion. But this fight, man, it's still people out there that say they don't want to see this fight. This is not a fight that they were looking forward to, not a fight that they asked for. But honestly, I think, as I said in past videos, I feel like all those guys, all the top welterweights should be mixing it up. I like to see that in any division. All the top guys fighting each other. I think this is a really, really good fight. I don't think it's a pushover fight for either fight. I think it's a tough fight for both guys, especially Errol Spence coming back from the accident and, not having any type of tune-up fight or any type of filler fight just to see where you at, to test everything out, getting hit with no headgear and things like that. And Danny Garcia, he's the furthest thing from a tune-up. This is a championship level guy who dominated the 140-pound division when it was actually competition there. You know what I'm saying? And then also came up to 147 and won a title and been very competitive in top fights with Sean Porter and Keith Thurman. So this is a guy who's very capable of beating anybody at the 147-pound division. And I think this is going to be a tough fight for Errol Spence Jr. Of course, with Danny Garcia, it's going to be tough for him trying to get around the reach advantage of Errol Spence. Just the activity of Errol Spence. Danny Garcia can be somewhat of a slow starter. I think it's going to be tough for him to work at Errol Spence's pace, because I think Errol will be able to control the pace in his fight. That's what he always does. He's very good at controlling distance. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what type of game plan Danny Garcia go in there with to try to combat just the physical gifts and just the natural ability of Errol Spence Jr. and his boxing IQ. But I think it's going to be somewhat of a chess match. I would see Errol Spence Jr. Boxing Danny Garcia similar to what he did versus Mikey Garcia. I think, but he's going to mix it up a little bit more, simply because Danny Garcia will be a little bit more game and a little bit more willing to throw punches. So that'll leave more openings for Errol Spence to put on, to let his offense go a little bit more. But I think Errol would come into this fight and be very cerebral, very strategic, and kind of pick his shots and box a little bit more than you've seen in the Sean Porter fight. Danny Garcia is primarily a counter puncher, very powerful, very strong puncher. I think one of the hardest hitters in the division, one of the best left hooks in boxing. So that's something that Earl's going to have to look out for. Danny Garcia is going to have to be able to stay away from, the body attack of Errol Spence. Don't be stagnant. He going to have to show a few different looks as opposed to just sitting back and waiting on Errol and trying to counter Errol. Because if you let Errol be first, he going to be first. And a lot of times it don't turn out good for you. So I think this is one of those fights that's poised to be very action packed. I think it's a fight that the fans are gonna love, contrary to the belief for a lot of people who feel like this ain't a competitive fight, or this is just a fight that they don't want to see. Of course, everybody want to see Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford, but we know what Errol Spence's plan was. He was already scheduled to fight Danny Garcia in January of this year. So the shit is just going, the plan is business as usual, basically. You know what I'm saying? Business as usual. He gonna fight Danny Garcia. Hopefully Terrence Crawford can get in there with somebody that's competitive. You see Earl is continuously fighting tip-top competition. So I'm excited for this fight, man. I think it's going to be a very, very fun fight to watch. Very action-packed, very exciting. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments, how y'all feel about the fight being official. It's going to be pay-per-view, Fox. You know, I'm not mad about that. I think both of these guys deserve it. You know what I'm saying? These guys put in the work. And I think just if you look at the names, Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, they both going to bring the fans. They both got their respective fan bases, and I think they deserve a pay-per-view fight. You know what I'm saying? This is a fight that I would definitely be purchasing. So y'all let me know how y'all feel about the matchup. How you feel about Errol Spence taking on such a tough opponent in his first fight back. What do you think about these guys' chances? Y'all let me know down in the comments, man. Contender regime, boxing. I'll holler at y'all boys, man.